It was 4 a.m. on September 16, 2025, the kind of quiet that hides danger. Along the southern border of Burkina Faso, a patrol stumbled upon something that would shake the entire continent. A long, silent convoy of trucks was crawling through the darkness, their engines muffled, their purpose hidden. What looked like another night of routine surveillance was about to expose one of the biggest covert operations Africa had ever seen. 57 trucks in total, all claiming to carry humanitarian aid. But something felt wrong. The route was remote, the timing suspicious, and the escorts unusually nervous. Captain Musa Kabore, the officer in charge, sensed it instantly. He radioed his superiors, his voice steady but urgent. Within minutes, word reached the presidential palace. President Ibrahim Traoré, already briefed on strange movements near the Togo border, didn't hesitate. He called General Ibrahim Traoré, commander of Special Forces. His order was short and sharp. "Stop that convoy! Move carefully. This could be something far bigger than it looks." Within the hour, drones and helicopters were in the air, tracing the convoy's path through the darkness. Thermal images revealed a staggering sight. Trucks stretching for nearly a mile, moving in formation, each one loaded to the brim. At exactly 4 a.m., the ambush was set. A barricade dropped across the road. The first trucks hit the blockade, drivers panicked, some tried to flee, but there was nowhere to run. When the security teams pried open the first container, the truth spilled out. Beneath sacks marked food aid and medical supplies were crates of assault rifles, grenade launchers, rocket tubes, and explosives. One truck after another revealed the same. It wasn't cargo. It was an arsenal, a mobile armory disguised as mercy. Captain Kabore's message to the capital was brief but chilling. "Mr. President, it's real. This is no smuggling run. It's a war convoy." President Traoré's response was equally measured. "Lock it all down. No one leaves. Interrogate the drivers. Find out who's behind this." By dawn, the operations site had become a fortress of evidence. Military engineers counted thousands of weapons, so many that the trucks themselves could barely hold the weight. The pattern was too coordinated to be random. This was planned, financed, and executed with precision. Someone powerful was preparing something catastrophic. The investigation began immediately. The first driver to talk was a man named Mark Zongo. Trembling under interrogation, he swore he thought he was hauling tractor parts. "They said it was for farms," he whispered. But as the questions deepened, the cracks in his story widened. Most of the drivers seemed genuinely unaware of what they were transporting, but the masterminds behind the operation knew exactly what they were doing. Each vehicle had started its journey from a different point, timed to converge just before crossing into Togo. A textbook move to avoid detection. Forensics teams examined the weapons. Serial numbers had been scratched off, but partial engravings remained. Using advanced scanners, investigators traced the origins, and the results were shocking. Some weapons came from old Libyan war stockpiles, others from Yemen, and a disturbing portion were brand new, fresh off assembly lines, never fired once. The total estimated value? Over $700 million. President Traoré convened an emergency session of the National Security Council. The nation's top generals, intelligence chiefs, and ministers gathered around a table stacked with photographs and reports. When the numbers were read aloud, the room fell silent. 25,000 AK-47s, 10,000 M16s, 13 million rounds of ammunition, 70,000 grenades, 2,500 rocket launchers, 400 anti-aircraft missiles, 50 tons of explosives. "This isn't a shipment," said Defense Minister General Sadu, his voice low. "This is an army." Another minister, Hussein Korore, leaned forward, eyes wide. "If those weapons had reached the wrong hands, we'd be looking at civil war, or worse, a coup." President Traoré rose slowly from his chair. "This is no accident. Someone planned this. Someone wants to turn Burkina Faso into another Libya, another Syria, another Yemen. But we are awake, and we stopped them." Moments later, the head of intelligence, Commander Ouedraogo, delivered a revelation that froze the room. "Mr. President," he said, "one of the drivers gave us a destination. The weapons were meant for warehouses in Ouagadougou. That's where the distribution would begin. Traoré didn't waste a second. Launch full-scale raids in the capital. Search every warehouse, every compound. I want names. And trace the money. That's where the truth hides. Within hours, Operation Storm was launched. In the early dawn, the capital shook with coordinated raids at 23 locations. Special forces broke through gates and sealed off compounds. By midday, the results were staggering. 17 warehouses packed with hidden weapons caches. Among those detained were unexpected names, former ministers, retired generals, wealthy businessmen, and even foreign nationals, all linked by one thing: their opposition to Traoré's government. Then came the first confession that changed everything. François Bongo, a powerful businessman, cracked under interrogation. His words sent shockwaves through the command room. It wasn't just about weapons, he confessed. We were promised support from abroad. The plan was to remove Traoré and install a government friendly to the West. Traoré leaned in, calm but piercing. Which foreign powers? Bongo hesitated, then whispered, "The meetings were in Accra. Some people came from Abidjan. The orders came from Paris. The approval came from Washington." Silence swallowed the room. Bongo continued, shaking. It was called Operation Restored Democracy. The weapons were just the first phase. The plan was to stage terrorist attacks, cause chaos, then use it to justify a coup. They promised it would look like an internal revolution, but it was all orchestrated. Names began to surface. Diplomats, executives, NGO operatives. The deeper the investigators dug, the more global the web became. President Traoré knew this couldn't remain hidden. The world had to see what had been stopped. He ordered a national address, one that would become legendary. In front of a towering display of seized weapons, Traoré faced the cameras. "My fellow citizens, and to the international community," he began. 3 days ago, we intercepted the largest weapons convoy in our nation's history. This was not smuggling. It was a plan to destroy Burkina Faso from within. He raised a file of classified documents. Here is the proof. 57 trucks, $700 million in weapons. The goal, to pit our people against each other and install leaders who serve foreign powers, not our citizens. His tone hardened. Imperialist powers still believe they can control Africa. They are wrong. We are awake now. Journalists fired questions. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. But Traoré's answers were unwavering. 17 arrests, ongoing investigations, weapons traced to NATO countries. This was not just an attack on Burkina Faso. It was an attack on all of Africa. When the press conference ended, Traoré played a video confession from François Bongo. The businessman appeared broken, weeping. "They lied to us," he said. "They told us it was for democracy, but all it would bring was destruction. I betrayed my country. I was wrong." The hall went silent. Traoré looked into the cameras. "That is the face of this plot, a people willing to sell their nation for power. But they failed. And they will always fail because Burkina Faso stands united." As the investigation deepened, Burkina Faso found itself at the center of a storm that no one had anticipated. What began as a single convoy intercept had become the unraveling of a vast international conspiracy. The evidence gathered in the first week alone revealed links that stretched far beyond West Africa. Intelligence analysts traced encrypted communications between arrested financiers and foreign intermediaries. Messages referenced coded shipments, concealed transfers, and the phrase Phase 2. Whatever Phase 2 was, it hadn't yet begun. And that terrified everyone inside the Security Council. For President Ibrahim Traoré, this was no longer a domestic security issue. It was a geopolitical chess game where every move carried global consequences. He called for an emergency closed-door session with military and intelligence chiefs. The room was tense, heavy with silence. When the doors shut, Traoré looked around the table and said quietly, "They thought we wouldn't notice. But now that we have, they'll come harder. We must be ready." From that moment, the strategy shifted. Burkina Faso wasn't just reacting, it was preparing for the counterattack that would inevitably follow. Behind the scenes, the captured communications exposed staggering details. Offshore bank accounts in Malta, Cyprus, and the UAE had funneled hundreds of millions of dollars into shell companies across Africa. Those funds were then used to purchase weapons through third-party brokers in Eastern Europe. It was an elaborate laundering mechanism, one designed to hide the fingerprints of governments that officially claimed innocence. But the evidence was undeniable. The weapons serial codes, once restored, revealed manufacturer origins linked to NATO-aligned nations. The puzzle pieces fit too neatly to ignore. Meanwhile, on the streets of Ouagadougou, the discovery had ignited something powerful, a wave of unity. Thousands marched in solidarity with the government, chanting slogans of independence and resistance. Africa for Africans, read banners stretching across the capital. For once, ordinary citizens, soldiers, and civil servants were on the same side, driven by a collective sense of purpose. This was no longer just about weapons. It was about reclaiming identity. At the same time, the pressure on President Traoré was enormous. Western embassies called for restraint. Global media accused him of paranoia. Diplomats arrived uninvited, offering assistance with the investigation, which only deepened suspicions. The president declined every offer. "We will handle our own affairs," he stated bluntly. In private, he knew the truth. Accepting foreign help would mean surrendering control over the narrative. That was exactly what his adversaries wanted. As more confessions poured in, the full map of the operation took shape. The weapons convoy was only one part of a multi-phase destabilization plan. Documents found on seized laptops revealed timelines, coded mission orders, and even propaganda templates. There were scripts for fake news reports, pre-written statements from human rights organizations, and social media posts ready to go live the moment chaos erupted. The goal was to create confusion, delegitimize the government, and pave the way for a foreign-backed transitional authority. The sophistication was chilling. This wasn't some rogue militia. It was statecraft disguised as sabotage. Inside Burkina Faso's intelligence directorate, teams worked around the clock to decrypt hard drives and trace money trails. The findings grew darker with each passing day. Payments to media personalities, foreign consultants, and even military contractors exposed a shadow network operating in plain sight. They called it a coup without uniforms, a silent invasion meant to rewrite the destiny of a nation from the inside out. Traoré's government realized they hadn't just stopped a convoy. They had intercepted a blueprint for regime change. And yet, amid the chaos, something extraordinary happened. The people didn't panic. Instead, they organized. Universities held public forums. Radio stations ran continuous updates. Mosques and churches opened their doors to volunteers. Across the country, citizens began donating food and supplies to security forces, a symbolic gesture of solidarity. Burkina Faso was no longer divided by fear, it was united by defiance. By the second week, the court proceedings began. Cameras flashed as the accused were escorted into the high court under heavy guard. Their faces told the story, once powerful figures now reduced to trembling men awaiting judgment. The evidence presented by prosecutors was overwhelming. Satellite images, phone intercepts, financial records, and personal testimonies from witnesses who had chosen to come forward. Among them were drivers, logistics managers, and even a customs official who admitted being bribed to look the other way. Every layer peeled back revealed another betrayal. When it was his turn to speak, President Traoré appeared before the court not as a ruler demanding vengeance, but as a citizen demanding justice. He reminded the nation that this was not a fight between Burkina Faso and the West. It was a fight between truth and manipulation, sovereignty and submission. His voice, calm but resolute, echoed across the courtroom. "Those who plotted this did not just underestimate our intelligence," he said. "They underestimated our spirit." Outside, the world watched closely. In Paris and Washington, officials issued carefully worded statements expressing concern. In Moscow and Beijing, the tone was different: open support, pledges of partnership, and offers of security assistance. The global divide had never been clearer. For some, Traoré had become a symbol of resistance. For others, a dangerous nationalist. Either way, he had changed the conversation. Weeks passed, and the operation's ripple effects spread far beyond Burkina Faso. In neighboring Mali and Niger,